The fantasy playoffs start in just a few weeks, and every matchup until then matters. Today, we've got two start pitchers and streamers to make sure you end up with a win next week.
It's about that time.
Stone on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You are tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Baseball. My name is Matt. Got the awesome co-host Kyle here today, and that's right, we are talking pitching. That means it's Thursday, and we've got 8 pitchers on tap for you to help out wherever you need it. As we mentioned earlier in the week, players keep hitting the IL, and that is not going to stop. Kyle, how the hell's it going, brother?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Looks like we got a few people in the chat already. Our full our rankings for two-start pitchers are at our website, stonedonsportspodcast.com. I'll pop that in the live chat there. Let's get her started. First guy we got. This Cubs pitcher has had a sub ERA in 17 starts and is a candidate for trades in real life and in fantasy. Matt, what does Jameson Taillon's 2 starts look like next week?
Well, he's got a couple starts. Well, obviously, one at Cincinnati and then at home against St. Louis. That Reds offense has been on a bit of a hot streak. They're top 5 in runs, home runs, and OPS over the past couple weeks. They're also striking out a lot and not taking many walks. In a similar story for the Cards, they're top 10 in runs, home runs, and average with a lot of strikeouts and very few walks. And I do want to say this right off the bat. I've never been somebody who's been really high on Jameson Taillon, but he's been on a bit of a heater of his own. Since June 11th, he is the number 12 overall starting pitcher. Would have never guessed it.
No.
In that 8-start span, he's 4-3 with an ERA below 2.5. He's striking out almost a batter an inning, and he's walked just 8 in 51 innings pitched. He's turned in a quality start 7 times in those 8 games and allowed just a total of 10 extra base hits. That is fantastic. On the season, a 32-year-old hurler is 7-5, got an ERA just a hair below 3. His FIP and XFIP are about a run higher. He's got a 114 whip, struck out 78, walked 21, allowed 12 home runs and 103 innings pitched. He is not and never has been a big strikeout pitcher. His rate is just a little over 19% this season against a career average of 21.4, which that in and of itself is a below average mark. His 7 strikeouts per 9 is the lowest mark of his career. However, he does a good job of getting ahead early in the count. His 66.7% first pitch strike rate puts him 13th among pitchers with at least 100 innings pitched. Not a whole lot of swing and miss there either, as you might have guessed. He's got a bottom 10% whiff rate, and his 8.6% swinging strike rate is 65th out of those 75 pitchers with that 100 inning mark. He does make up for it, though, with a very high called strike rate that ranks in the top 20, ahead of some names like Sonny Gray and Tarek Skubal. His walk rate, on the other hand, is outstanding. He's in the top 10% there, and his 1.88 walks per 9 ranks 11th in baseball. He's fooling his fair share of hitters as well, getting them to chase about 29% of the time, which is better than most. And he's been pretty damn efficient with his pitches too, hitting that mark that we love to see of 67% strikes. That's helped him to work deeper into games. He's gone 5 or more innings pitched in 15 of 17 starts and 11 straight. If he's not striking out or walking many guys, they must be giving up a lot of contact, right? Yep. His overall contact rate's at 82 flat, 8th highest in the league, and his 89.6% zone contact rate is the 10th highest. This is always who he's been, though. Even at his best, he was just average, and he's got a career contact rate of 79.5%. However, the quality of that contact is much better. Though his exit velocity is a little bit high at 89.6, he's got a solid 7.4% barrel rate, and his hard hit rate is even better at just over 36%. Dude is a fly ball pitcher that does get pulled quite a bit, but so far he's done a halfway decent job of keeping the ball in the park. His home runs per 9 is just a hair over 1 at the moment, and yes, we want it to be under 1, but, we are talking about dudes who are available on the waiver wire. but don't be surprised if he starts giving up a few more home runs as we get into the dog days of the season.
Good analysis there, man. I agree. He's been quite the surprise this fantasy season.
He has. So this Royals pitcher is a combined 6-2 in 13 career starts against his two opponents next week. Will Michael Wacha continue that success?
Yeah, he's been doing pretty well. You know, finding streaming options that aren't widely rostered is, as you probably all know, somewhat difficult, right? One name that stands out this week, however, is Michael Wacha with two nice matchups versus division opponents. He's starting pitcher number 72 on the year since July 1st, all the way to number 28. Very good. 4 starts so far in July, 3 wins, no losses, a sub-3 ERA, and a 110 whip. He had a game his last start on Tuesday versus Arizona, allowed just 3 earned runs on 6 hits, 1 walk over 4 2/3, while just striking out just 1, unfortunately. That was his lowest output this year. He also gave up 3 dongs, which was allowed. On the season, he started 18. He's got a winning record, just barely 7-6, 101 innings pitched. The ERA still pretty good at 3.65 and a 1.22 whip. Strikeout rate is below average at 20.6. He does have 86 Ks on the year. He's on pace to at least match last year's 124. And his walk rate's pretty good too. It's above average at 7 flat. He throws a lot of pitches. He's got a 6-pitch arsenal, but his changeup grades out as his best pitch, which he throws 32% of the time, more than any other offering. That changeup pitch has generated almost a 43.0 swing rate and a 19.8 swinging strike rate. For comparison, his fastball, his four-seam fastball, he throws that 93.5 miles an hour. That's a swinging strike rate of just over 7%. A guy like Wacha doesn't miss many at bats. His chase and whiff rates are both in the bottom third of pitchers in the league. And he's kind of had a reputation of being a fly ball pitcher, and rightly so. His fly ball rate last year was 31%. This season, he has improved it about 7%, but he's still giving up home runs. He's now 12 on the year with the 3 he had on Tuesday. That puts his home runs per 9 at just over 1. Still not terrible, but he was way under 1 before Tuesday. He survives by not allowing too much hard contact at all. Average exit velocity, hard hit rate are both pretty good on StatCast. He's also improved that hard hit rate about 2% year over year. So he's got the matchups we see on the screen there at Chicago. This will be his 4th start versus the White Sox this season next week. He's 1-2 and lost 1 while going at least 6 innings in all 3. And 2 of the 3 starts he allowed just 2, or actually all of the starts he allowed just 2 earned runs or less, and average 6 Ks per game. And it's the White Sox, okay? They're the worst team in baseball. They're 50 games under 500. Throw anybody pretty much against them. And then at Detroit, Comerica, it's a big park, Pitchers Park. The Tigers have been pretty damn good this month. They're not as consistent as they could be sometimes. Honestly, this one could kind of go either way for me. If you're in a league with daily moves, maybe you consider starting him versus the White Sox only. But he's a good option with his ability to limit hits, maintain a decent strikeout count, make him a reliable option next week. Anything in the chat?
Nope.
Sweet. Okay, next guy. We got this Friars pitcher has brought the knuckleball back to the majors, and we're all here for it, right? Tell us more about streaming Matt Waldron next week.
Well, he's got, on the surface, a couple of tough matchups, right? They're both at home against the Dodgers and the Rockies. And the Dodgers have been a little bit better than average offensively the past couple of weeks, but we also know that lineup can go off on any given day. He's faced them twice already this season, the last time being on May 11th, and he's allowed 3 earned run over 10 1/3 innings pitched, striking out 10 and walking 6. That's pretty damn good against that lineup. The Rockies have been arguably the best offense in baseball in that same couple of week span, and they just hung 20 on the Red Sox. So, we're going to proceed with a little bit of caution, but that's just a hot streak from them. That is definitely not who that Colorado's Rockies team really is. And you're right, buddy. Love me a knuckleballer. He turned in a quality start yesterday at Washington, scattering 4 hits over 6 innings, allowing 3 runs while striking out 4 and walking 2. And since May 11th, he's been a top 30 starting pitcher with 9 quality starts. On the season, he's just 5-9 with an ERA a little over 3.5. His FIP is roughly the same. XFIP's about half a run higher. He's got a 116 whip, struck out 99, walked 31, given up 12 home runs and 112 and 2/3 innings pitched. But don't let that 5-9 record fool you. This dude has been pitching well this season, and he's been eating innings. He's gone at least 6 innings in 10 of his last 11 starts and 13 times overall. Now, he doesn't get a ton of strikeouts. He's got a rate a little over 21% and a K per 9 just under 8. That said, he's struck out 6 or more batters 8 times on the season. His whiff and swinging strike rates are both well below league average, but because of his high called strike rate, his called plus swinging strike rate is respectable 27.1%. He's not fooling too many batters either, judging by his bottom 15% chase rate, but it is what it is. However, he does help himself out by not walking too many. His walks per 9 is a little bit higher than we'd like at 3 flat, but the rate is well below average, or the rate is well below 7%. He really excels at limiting hard contact. His exit velocity is in the top quarter of the league at 87.8. His barrel rate is in the top third at 7 flat, and his hard hit rate is in the top 15% at just 32.7%. His weak contact rate is well above average as well at 6.4%. So not only is he limiting the hard contact, he's forcing plenty of weak contact. From an overall perspective, he does allow quite a bit of contact. He's currently sitting at 81.1%. Zone contact is high too at 85.9, but again, he's not really getting hit too hard, so I'm not overly concerned. I do need to point out, though, that San Diego is a bottom third defensive team, according to defensive runs saved, and they don't have the greatest overall range either, so a few more batted balls may end up as hits than they would if the defense was a little bit better. His ground ball rate is pretty low at 38%, so he skews more towards being a fly ball pitcher that allows about an average amount of line drives. He does get a ton of pop-ups as well, more than 3 full points over the league average of 7%. Look, even though this dude has had some success against the Dodgers, it's still a tough matchup, so we need to keep our expectations in line with reality. But at the same time, when you're talking about a knuckleballer, we really don't know how that pitch is going to behave on any given day. So he might go out there and throw 6 or 7 shutout innings, or he might go out there and just get shelled if the knuckleball isn't knuckling, because at that point, it just becomes a batting practice fastball.
No. Yeah, he's been pretty good.
He has. This Diamondbacks pitcher returned from a month-long stint on the IL on Tuesday and looked fairly sharp at the Royals. Is that a sign of things to come for Jordan Montgomery?
Well, I think it could be versus the matchups here against Washington and Pittsburgh, but I'm not going to roll him out every week. He's not been very good. He's number 130 something starting pitcher in fantasy this year. He's still 50% owned. You mentioned that start Tuesday. It was nice. 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, and 2 Ks. It was kind of a refreshing change of pace for him. Could be a start in the right direction. 4 of his last 5 starts have lasted at least 5 innings with 3 earned runs or fewer. On the season, he's had 14 starts. He still has a winning record of 7-5 in 70 and 2/3 innings pitched. But here comes the bad. His ERA is over 6. His FIP and his XFIP are both in the 4s. He's been pretty damn unlucky. Strikeout rate is just under 15%. It's below average. It could be a lot better. He's never really been a huge K guy, but dude has a career mark of 21.8%, so he can do better. Walk rate is pretty good too, 7.6, above average. Does a somewhat decent job of missing bats. His overall whiff rate is slightly below average, but he has 2 pitches, his changeup and his curve, with whiff rates each in the 30, each over 30%. And his chase rate is pretty good as well. It's in the 78th percentile on StatCast. While that's good, though, he allows way too much contact when hitters do chase balls out of the zone. Both his hard hit rate and average exit velocity are below average, but keeps barrel balls in check with a nice 6% barrel rate. Does a nice job of keeping baseballs from going over the fence. His home runs per 9 is 102, and his fly ball rate is pretty nice. Kind of confirms it there at 25%. His ground ball rate's just a couple points lower than league average, and he allows way too many pulled line drives. And, a lot of those are likely falling for hits. So here's the deal. His expected stats are, I sound like Biden. His expected stats are worse than last year, and he hasn't really improved on much except for that barrel rate. He has struggled. And the problem is when he's bad, he's really bad. Okay. He's allowed 6 or more earned run in 4 outings this season. In those 4 starts, he went 4 or fewer innings. So this could blow up on you. Washington's kind of a sneaky offensive team. They like to put the ball in play. The last 15 days, they've been 19th in hits, 20th in runs, 21st in home runs, 19th in RBIs, and 18th in OBS. So everything's in the bottom half of the league there. The one at Pittsburgh, they've been not so great either. 23rd in OPS, 16th in runs, dead last in hit or home runs, I should say, and 15th in RBI. So you could certainly do worse, but proceed with caution. I like the matchups. Washington and Pittsburgh, not too great, super great offenses. You're not going to roll Jordan Montgomery out there versus the Dodgers, the Phillies, or the Brewers. But these 2 teams, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. And he's somebody who really capitalized on just having an awesome offseason.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining that the D-backs might have a little bit of buyer's remorse.
They definitely do. They definitely do. All right, we're headed to New York. This Mets pitcher has allowed more than 3 earned runs just once in his last 8 outings, except he's had some trouble pitching deeper into games. Can Sean Manaea still offer managers some hope next week?
I think he can, and he's a streaming option for the week. He's got to start at home against Dubo's Twinkies. And that Twins offense has really cooled off over the past couple weeks. They're bottom 10 in scoring, home runs, and average. However, they're not striking out a whole lot, and they are drawing some walks. And Manaea, look, he's been solid, if unspectacular, this season so far. In 20 starts, he's 6-4 with a 3 3/4 ERA. His FIP and xFIP are about half a run higher. He's got a 1 1/4 WHIP. He's struck out 101, walked 45, given up 12 home runs, and 106 innings pitched. And he's definitely allowing more base runners than we'd like to see. And that's being driven by his walks. Right now, he's got a career worst 3.8 walks per 9 with a walk rate over 10%. That is no way to be successful. To me, that all starts with him not getting ahead early in the count. His first pitch strike rate is a career low 57%. That's 5 points worse than MLB average and 6 points below his career average. However, strikeout numbers, on the other hand, are just fine. He's got a healthy 22.6% rate. He's striking out 8.5 per 9. His 10.7% swinging strike rate is a little bit below average, but it's not bad. And his 25% whiff rate is middle of the road. He has fanned 6 or more in half of his starts as well. On the whole, he's been slightly inefficient with his pitches. He's throwing strikes just 63% of the time, but that's not really prevented him from putting in some innings. He has gone 5 or more in 16 of his 19 starts. And we've covered what happens when batters don't make contact, but what happens when they do? Well, from a quality of contact standpoint, it's not great, but it's not terrible. He's got an exit velocity of 89.2. It's not awful, but it's a bit high. Barrel and hard hit rates are both a little bit worse and rank in the bottom third of the league. And his weak contact rate is a little below average as well, coming in at just 3.1%. From an overall perspective, he's pretty much league average. His contact rate is at 77.8, which is on par with the league average mark, and his career average as well. Zone contact's about 85.5%, which is right around the league norm. He doesn't really get a whole lot of ground balls with a rate a little under 36%. His fly ball and line drive rates mirror each other at 29%. And I'm surprised he's managed a 270 BABIP considering that line drive rate and the fact that the Mets aren't exactly a great defensive team. However, he should get plenty of run support, and given his penchant for, showing up when you don't expect him to, I think he's got a great shot to get you a quality start and a halfway decent chance at the win as well.
Heck yeah. Great option.
This Brewers pitcher has quietly won 4 of his last 5 decisions and has struck out 15 over his last 10 2/3. Can Colin Rea keep this momentum going next week?
I think he can. He's got a great team context there in Milwaukee. He doesn't have super great stuff, but he's been doing good. Since the 1st of July, he's fantasy pitcher number 27 and year to date number 58. So still pretty dang good. Last start was Tuesday versus the Cubs. He went 5 innings, allowed 4 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, struck out 8. Pretty nice. You haven't really seen that high strikeouts from him. Usually he's anywhere from like 2 to 5. He's had some starts recently with 8, with 7. So that's kind of nice. He has allowed 2 runs or fewer in 3 of his 4 outings in July. On the season, 20 appearances, 17 of them starts. He's 9-3, which is amazing. Again, team context helps. 110 innings pitched. ERA's 360, whips at 121. Strikeout rate's below average, about 4%. He's at 18. And he dropped a little bit too from last year. He was over 21%. Walk rate's at 7.1, above average. You like that. So you watch him pitch and you wonder how exactly is he getting it done, right? His stuff is pretty much unremarkable to say the least. He averages just a 92.7 mile an hour with his 4-seam fastball and a swinging strike rate of 7.8. That's damn low compared to, today's norms. His ERA, that 360 I said, is lower than his FIP and his xFIP. However, he's really avoided that big inning, blow up this season. So through some combination of guile and good fortune, he's just escaping innings with less damage than he should be. If you look at his strand rate, it's almost 6% higher than MLB average. So he's trending the wrong way in all his batted ball frequency rates. So ground ball, line drives, and fly balls. He gets hit pretty hard as well. His average exit velocity and hard hit rate are not very good. His hard hit rate has improved a couple percent year over year, and his barrel rate is not in good shape either and is worse than last year. His swing and miss game, he's also pretty poor at that as well. His chase and whiff rates are both in the bottom 10% in the league. But the matchups I like, Atlanta, I can't believe I'm saying the Braves, but in the last 15 days, they've not been good. They're in the bottom 5 in pretty much everything. Washington, he just faced them actually on the 14th of this month, and he got the win, allowed just 2 earned, 1 walk, 7 Ks. So I covered Washington with Montgomery, in case you missed it. They've been 19th in hits, 20th in runs, 21st in home runs, 19th in RBIs, and 18th in OPS in the last 15 days. So look, no guy's perfect. This whole list, no guy is perfect. But Ray's been damn solid, and he has that great team context I mentioned. I think you can trust him. He's one of those pitchers who's not going to beat themselves. Good option next week.
And that's important. I mean, that's half the battle. Just don't beat yourself.
Yep. All right. Next guy. This Cardinals hurler just got his 2,000th strikeout of his career this week, and he has two decent matchups next week. What does Lynn offer, Matt?
Who's that? Lance Lynn?
Yep.
There you go.
Lance Lynn. Lance. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's close enough. It's spelled right on the screen, folks.
All right. So he's got starts at home against Texas and then on the road against the Cubbies. And that Rangers offense has got to be one of the biggest disappointments this season. They're not scoring many runs. Their triple slash numbers look like ass, and they're not hitting for power. They are drawing some walks and not striking out a whole lot. So there's some positives for them, I guess. The Cubbies haven't been as bad, but they're no better than mid-pack offensively, really no matter how you look at it. And we last looked in on Lynn on June 20th. Since then, he's looked pretty damn good, aside from getting his dick knocked in the dirt against the Nationals, where he allowed 10 earned and 2 2/3 innings pitched. But in those other 4 starts, just 3 earned runs, 19 strikeouts, 6 walks, and 23 2/3. Not too bad. On the season, he's 5-4 with a 4.17 ERA, and that Nationals start added like a run to his ERA. That was shitty. His FIP and XFIP are in the same neighborhood as well. He's got a 139 whip, struck out 94, walked 40, allowed 14 home runs in 101 1/3 innings pitched. And this is another guy who is allowing a lot of base runners due to a relatively high walk rate. Right now, it's at 8.9%, which isn't too far above the league average, but he's walking 3.5 per 9, and both of those have been trending in the wrong direction the last several years. He is still a decently reliable source of strikeouts, though. He's striking out a little under a batter per inning, and his rate is at 21 flat. His whiff rate's fine at 25%, although the swinging strike rate is a hair low at 10.3, but it's not awful. The quality of contact isn't terrible. He's mid-pack and exit velocity at 89. His hard hit rate's a little worse at 40, but the barrel rate is pretty damn bad at 10.3%. He is, however, inducing a lot of weak contact. His 5.8% rate there is 2 points better than the league average. And his overall contact rate isn't too bad either. He's a point worse than average at 78.5, but much better in the zone, where he's about 3 points better than average. And considering hitters are very aggressive in the zone against him, swinging over 70% of the time, I'll take it. Taking a look at his batted ball profile, he's a little high on the fly balls, but not by a whole lot, and a little under average on ground balls. And that's really who he's been over the past half decade. So, there's nothing out of the norm there for him. He doesn't really get pulled too much either, and that's helped him trim about 8 points off his home run to fly ball rate. He's still allowing over a home run per 9, but that number is down from where it's been the past couple of seasons. And look, Lance Lynn is, 36, 37 years old, however the hell old he is. We know who he is at this point. He's more than capable of going out there and giving you 6 or 7 innings and striking out just as many. Or just like that start at Washington, he can go out there and just get pimp smacked and embarrass himself. But I don't really see that happening with either of these two matchups, just considering the way those offenses are going and just the way he's been pitching on the whole over the past, we'll call it 5 or 6 weeks. Anyone can have a bad game, but he's had more good games than bad, and markedly so. And I think that makes him a pretty damn good option for next week.
Heck yeah. One more.
Yeah, one more. So if you are looking for some strikeouts, this Red Sox pitcher has a great chance to get them in his matchup against Seattle next week. What else can Cooper Criswell do for us?
So stop me if you've heard this before. The Red Sox rotation has been one of the biggest surprises of the season. And Cooper Criswell has been a part of it. Most recent start was on Tuesday. He allowed 5 hits and a free pass while striking out 4 over 7 shutout innings to earn the win at Coors Field, no less. So it was his longest outing of the year. On the year, he's got 14 appearances, 13 of them starts. He's 4-4 in 65 innings pitched. ERA just a smidge over 4, with a FIP about a fifth of a run less. In his 14 appearances, he's allowed more than 3 earned runs just twice. Strikeout rate, it's at 19.9. It's below average, but the walk rate makes up for it, just 5.9%. That puts him in the 79th percentile on StatCast. So he doesn't really have overpowering stuff. He really has to rely on command to get outs. And if he can't hit his spots, he's going to get punished. But for the most part, he's done pretty well hitting those spots. He's mixed his pitches pretty well, and he's given fantasy managers who've rostered him some decent output. It does allow a batting average of 254. It's about 14 points higher than the league average. His swinging strike rate of 7.3 is even lower than Colin Rea's that I talked about a moment ago. And lately, the Red Sox have just been done such a great job identifying pitchers with good breaking and off speed stuff and having them throw it 99% of the time. Okay. This is Cooper Criswell. He doesn't even throw a fastball. His highest velocity pitch is his sinker, under 90 miles an hour. His hard hit rate and average exit velocity correlate that. He doesn't allow much hard contact at all. Both rates are in the 70th percentile or better on Baseball Savant. So, a sinker pitcher, right? Let's look at his ground ball rate. It's damn good, 51%. Among all pitchers that have faced at least 250 batters this season, he has the 13th best ground ball rate in the majors with an 8% improvement over last season. And with that good rate, his fly ball and line drive rates are in very, very good shape. His home run per 9 is under 1. He's only allowed 7 dingers year to date. Now, he doesn't miss too many bats. His whiff rate's in the bottom 6%. Does get batters to chase more often than not, but unfortunately, hitters are making too much contact on those offerings. We got the matchups at home versus Seattle. They're just not very good this year. Last 15 days, they're 27th in hits, 26th in runs, 20th in homers, 27th in OPS. And yes, they are still striking out a lot. They just don't really scare anyone. So I'm definitely good rolling them out there. Texas, also not very good after being so awesome last year of an offense. They're 29th in hits, tied for 24th in runs, 21st in OPS, and 25th in RBIs. I picked him up today. He's kind of a slight desperation play. He's only 2% owned on Yahoo. I'm starting him next week in the podcast league. I just really love the matchups, and I want to get an extra start. So I suggest you give him a shot.
I can dig that. We got 2K in the chat. Would you drop Ranger Suarez or Michael Wacha for any of these guys or Max Meyer? Well, as of like 30 minutes ago, Max Meyer was still in the minors. I understand wanting to stash him, but that team context is absolutely awful. Ranger Suarez, I'm not dropping. No. Period. He's been too damn good. And whether you believe in him or not, and I'm not a believer, I think he's a good pitcher, but he's been pitching over his head so far this season. But still, it's it is what it is, right?
And Wacha, we talked about, he was our second guy. We talked about 2K if you wanted to scoot back, but the matchups against the White Sox in Detroit's pretty good this week, even though Detroit's been pretty hot in July. But I would not either. I agree.
Yeah, in that Detroit offense, there's really nobody that scares you. We're seeing the Riley Green breakout. Matt Vierling has been pretty solid, and other guys have just kind of stepped up here or there to help carry the load, but they don't have that really feared middle of the lineup bat. They don't have anyone they need to pitch around or anything like that. So, it's still an offense that can be shut down any given day.
For sure. Heck yeah. Go Tigers. Yeah, they shut out. They had a bullpen game today. It was a 4-hit shutout with the bullpen because they're dealing with some starting pitcher injuries. They did a nice job. Shut out the Guardians. I think they split the series with them 2-2. I think they won Monday, if I'm recalling that right. So now headed back home for Jubo's Twins.
Mm-hmm.
So
time to start a new winning streak.
Right. I am looking definitely forward to that. If nobody's got any more questions, we're going to pop the heck out of here. If you like what you see, guys, please consider like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're here for you guys for baseball. And if you like fantasy football, we do too. We have our fantasy football channel, Stoned on Sports, at Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. We just had our recent live stream on Sunday, the QB fantasy preview. Check that out as well. Our next live stream for fantasy football will be Sunday, August 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern with our running back fantasy preview. So heck yeah.
Hold up, buddy. We got one more question here. Verlis is asking if Jeffrey Springs is worth bothering with. My gut reaction says no. Understand he's coming back from injury, and that Rays rotation is just a damn mess. Springs showed some flashes, but I think it would be foolish to expect him to come back and turn in, performance like Robbie Ray did yesterday, right? Just looked absolutely amazing against the Dodgers. Robbie Ray, we're talking about a former Cy Young winner there who's had some really damn good seasons. Springs, I mean, as a dart throw, sure, maybe you catch lightning in a bottle, but of all the range of outcomes that he is tied to, I think that is pretty unlikely.
Real fast there.
And
Yes,
2K is asking if we do DFS football. Yes, with varying levels of success. It's more fun for us or any, something like that.
Well, we'll have our we do a Sunday morning show every during regular season for fantasy football. Starts at like 11:30. Called Tinker Time, actually, because everybody's tinkering with their lineups there after injury reports come out. And usually we will do put a DFS lineup together on there. Sometimes wasting a little time waiting for questions and start sit questions to come in, but definitely love DFS. I like it for baseball a lot too. Yes. For sure. But thanks everyone again. Make sure I like and subscribe. We're going to get out of here. Everyone have a great night. Stay stoned.
See you, folks. Maybe.